Are you ready to join me in transforming fear to freedom? That's the objective of the show. Are you ready to explore with me and my guests? Are you ready to get into the deep and play? This is where it's at, and that's what it's all about. No medical advice here. Use discernment and decide for yourself if the information is right for you. All views and opinions expressed on this show belong to the individual and are not necessarily shared with the producer of the show. Want more details? Go to letsgetrealchattingwithcatherine.com. Now let's get real and have some fun. Who are we going to explore with today? Come on with me and let's get into the deep. Welcome to another episode of Let's Get Real, Chatting with Catherine. This is Catherine Llewellyn Journal, your host and the producer of the shows. Tonight we have a returning guest to explore more about past life and near death and all it entails and the exploration and the mystery. Douglas DeLong is a medical intuitive, spiritual teacher, counselor, and past life therapist. He has written 3 books, which are distributed internationally, and you can get all of them on his website, and I'll give you the links and get Doug to give them to us as well. He's got Ancient Teachings for Beginners and Ancient Healing Techniques, as well as his newest book, Past Lives for Beginners, which is really the focus of tonight's chat. Douglas and his wife Carol have the DeLong Mystery School in Saskatoon, Saskatchewan, and we talked a lot about that on the previous show. So if you want to listen to that, you can go back to the website lgrcc.com and go to the current shows or previous shows and get the listen to that. But so anyway, I'm really excited to be once again chatting with you, Doug, and thank you so much for giving us your time and sharing this so interesting and mysterious topic. Welcome.
Well, thanks for having me back on the show. I look forward to talking to everyone.
Yeah, well, it's a very exciting topic. It's a very exciting conversation, past lives and as we talked about this before, but for people that, are just listening for the first time, the concept of reincarnation used to be a very, I'm going to call it woo-woo for lack of a better word, that, it was for some people, like you just didn't even talk about it. You didn't even imagine it. And it feels like now it's a lot more accepted. Whether people believe in it or not is not, not the main thing, but we can talk about it at least. Are you having that experience with people with your book and getting it out there? Are you having more, do you notice a change from, say, 20 years ago?
More people are interested in past life regression, reincarnation, and I've been getting more clients for past lives. So it's actually, it's come a long way. More people are open in regards to it also. It's really cool.
Yeah. Well, and the curiosity, it's like, it feels to me like in years ago, people were curious in the sense of, oh, maybe I was someone famous. But I get the sense, and from our last conversation as well, was that people are actually seeing past life regression and the understanding of death and the whole experience of us having multiple lives as kind of like a tool as opposed to just curiosity.
Oh yeah, I agree with you. I've got in my book Past Lives for Beginners, I give exercises, techniques that you could use to access your own past lives. There's all sorts of cool exercises, and I've got stories in there with people having past life recall, near-death experiences, astral travel, and even a couple of kids having amazing past life recall. So it's quite interesting.
Yeah, when you talk about children, one of the things that's been coming up in the news in the last, to my awareness anyway, in the last little while, is the young children, quite young, remembering not only, it's not just like talking to their imaginary friends anymore. It's like remembering a lifetime that is fairly current. Like in the World War II, there was a kid that remembered being a World War II pilot, being shot down, remembered exactly where he was shot down, remembered his name, remembered his family, and was able to connect with the family that are still alive. And they were like, he was bang on as far as who this guy was, who he was. And there was another kid that, young boy. It's interesting. These are all the stories I know of were boys recently. And this one was quite interesting because he recalled being killed, I believe it was in Golden Heights. And he had a birthmark on his forehead, which was where he said he'd been struck and killed with an axe. He had really specific details, knew who did it, and the people, this was like, the way the story that I read was he was 4 years old, and he was 3 years old, and the person that he said he was had been killed 4 years previous. And so he actually took the people didn't even know this guy was dead. He was missing, but they didn't know he was dead. And the little boy was able to show them exactly where his body was. He told them what happened. He told them the person that killed him, where he buried the axe that he killed him with. And then they actually found the guy that killed him and accused him. And first he denied it, and then with kid had all these details, and the guy was charged and went to prison. I find that really amazing, and I'm wondering if, I know like you've got some experiences with that, but are you noticing anything, a trend here? Is this becoming more common?
Well, I find with kids, they are better subjects than adults. They seem to, the way their brain works, they relax enough, and they get a lot of information to go very deeply. And I had a kid that remembered living in Calgary, Alberta, and he remembers working as a mechanic in a garage, and how he took his Mustang car out on the highway, and he ended up getting died in a car crash. And he remember listening to the Beatles music and all the old stuff from the 60s. And he knew quite a bit of stuff back then, so it was quite detailed. And sometimes a lot of kids seem to be able to do that. I've also noticed sometimes when someone gets past life recall, it isn't necessarily something from 1,000 to 2,000 years ago. It could be a lifetime from before. And when you get those, sometimes you can check some historical records, like birth records, death records, or other information, and find out. And when you get that, it makes it easier to verify some of the information about that lifetime.
Yeah, well, that's what, I mean, this kid was able to do. But, what I'm kind of, wondering is, do you suppose, like, is it more, our kids, are we, do you think we're coming back sooner or something? And that's why we're seeing this more, like, whereas before maybe they was 100 years, but now we're like, I don't know, like the revolving door, because like this one incident, it was a year later, and he came back. Do you think that it's do you have an opinion on that, a thought why this is happening more now?
I'm not sure. I just think there's more and more people aware of past lives, and they're just coming back to for the greatest soul growth, to learn and develop from it. And that's the only thing I can think of.
Yeah.
I know I've had a lot of people that can remember World War II.
Right.
And in detail, so it's quite interesting when that happens.
Yeah, and I think that leads me to the other question, which is, with your book, Past Life Regression for Beginners,
mm-hmm.
Do you have, how do people use that book? Is it like a tools to do this yourself, or how would they, as opposed to like you yourself do this regression therapy, so I would come to you and you as a practitioner would do it for me. So is the book a kind of just to help people understand what it is, or is it an actual tool to use?
There are techniques and exercises in there that can help you recall your own past lives. And sometimes there's some chants that will open up certain areas of your brain, deep breathing techniques, and other exercises that you can use to start recalling some of your own past lives. So you don't necessarily have to come see me for a past life. Sometimes you can get your own information by using exercises or techniques that are in past lives for beginners. And a lot of people like that. There's all sorts of exercises. And it tells you, gives you advice about seeking out someone to help you with your past lives as well.
Is it possible to, like, have you ever encountered a situation where a person was doing a past life that they've encountered something that was, dangerous, or that they maybe got stuck there, or does that ever happen? Is it possible even?
No, I've had some people have some past life recalls that were traumatic, where they died, and they just remember the past life being rough and going through the death scene, or sometimes there was a traumatic experience happening while they're reliving that past life.
So that's when it would be. Sorry.
That's the only thing I can think of.
But wait, so that's where you would probably expect, maybe for your first time or to get some experience, it would be good to have somebody with you to do that, or how do you see that?
Oh yeah, well, if someone comes to see me or someone else that does regression work, it's probably a really good idea, because I will give that person exercises, techniques, and there's one of them that's a chakra flow meditation. I teach people how to get the energy flowing up and down through the body, and as they do it, the energy flows through quite easily.
Right.
And they get into a deep state, and they're able to start accessing some of their own past lives. So I guide or I teach people how to do that. And I also teach them how to astral travel, to go up into the heavenly fields above. So that's part of what I do with a person. I'm not just teaching their past life, I'm also showing them how to do the astral travel work and getting all sorts of insight and opening up their gifts and abilities. So it's really cool. And that's one thing to do. And then, of course, once you can do a lot of their own work, you can just be at home and explore your own past lives.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering, if maybe, initially it would be good to have someone like yourself sort of walk you through something like that, so that, because, it's different, isn't it? It's not like what would you compare it to when you do take a journey like that? Like a dream, or is there?
It's like meditation, doing some meditation.
Okay.
And that's one way to do it. But I have people come here. I also do it by phone or by Skype. Someone will just contact me by phone in North America or whatever, and I'll do a session with them and guiding them, getting the energy flowing up and down through the bodies. And I do a couple of chants to get their crown and third eye areas open up, just to get them into the altered state. But that's one thing a person can do. They don't necessarily have to be here
in person. Yeah, you can do it distantly. So when
you can follow me from whatever. Yeah.
Yeah. So when you're doing like you facilitating a past life regression, do you, as the facilitator, see or sense what the person is experiencing, or is it totally just them?
Sometimes I'm right there. I'm seeing a lot of what they're going through and feeling a lot of their emotions. There's been a few times, almost like I had a video camera there, going into the past and watching it all through the camera, or just my own.
Because you actually have some psychic, like you have psychic gifts to be as an intuitive, and in our last show we talked about how as a child you were able to see your spirit guides and stuff like that. So I just wondered if that was part of your, because sometimes if you're, as a person, we'll call them the client, they might not understand something they're seeing, and I just wondered if that's where you have that extra sort of edge where you can help them to know what they're seeing.
Oh yeah, I get some insight. I'll get told stuff or I'll communicate with angels and guides, or I'll get intuitive information, or I'll see a shape of someone floating above them and around them, and I know that their guides or angels are in the room with them when I'm working with them. And sometimes I'll see an overlay of a different face looking back at me. That usually tells me that person's angel is there working through them, helping them. So I get all sorts of insight that way, and I can see the colors, the lights, the aura around people, and I can just put a lot of it together when I'm working with an individual.
So do you see auras when, like, you're in person, or do you see them, like, if you're talking to me right now, could you sense my aura from distant like this, or?
Sometimes I can sense it. Usually when a person's in front of me, I can see it. That's easier that way. But sometimes when I'm seeing something on TV, I'll pick up on the person's aura. But usually it's when the person's directly in front of me. I'll pick a lot of information up. Or if I do start talking to someone on the phone, I'll start sensing things, and I'll ask a few questions and get some insight and be able to go with that.
So when you talk aura, just for anyone who's might be listening and not aware of, what is an aura? Could you explain that a little bit?
Well, the aura is the energy, the colors and lights that are around us, surrounding the human body. And it's a combination of chemical secretions within the body, heat, radiation, sunlight, and electromagnetism. And all of that completes or gives you the aura around the body, particularly around the head. It's like looking at a light around a light bulb.
Right.
Or lights around a fireplace on the edges.
Mm-hmm.
Same idea. Yeah.
Yeah. So and that's something we're not going to go into a lot on in that necessarily today, but that's where a lot of, like you're saying, the energy shows up, emotion shows up. So if you're feeling illness and that kind of stuff also shows up in the aura, doesn't it?
Yeah, pretty much. If someone's sick, I'll see the colors in the auras. If someone's got a cancer, sometimes I'll pick up on a major health problem by just looking, and I'll see a dirty color within the aura or part of the body where the problem is. For instance, if a woman has breast cancer, I'll see a dirty yellow-gray or green over top of the left breast or the right breast, and I know that there's an issue.
Okay. Wow, that's very cool. So you've been doing this for like over 25 years.
Oh, yeah. I've probably regressed well over 1,500 people, probably closer to 2,000 people through the years, counting groups I've worked with. Mm-hmm. And so I've been doing it for probably 25 years. And I've regressed that many people.
Right. And I'm wondering about, we are starting to hear a lot more about near-death experiences. We are starting to hear about more. I think there was a doctor recently who, brain specialist who actually had a near-death experience, and his was really profound and very different than any I've ever heard before. It seems like he really went into some very interesting dimensions, maybe, and so forth. But I'm wondering if you're doing a past life, and you say somebody witnesses how they die, is it possible to I don't know how to explain that. I don't know if you've ever run into this, but when you're going back to a past life, and you'll say, like, having that information can help you in this lifetime, is it possible to go back to a past life and change an outcome?
No, you can go into the past life, see everything happening, but when you do, you can take what's going on in this lifetime and you can make sure that you can change it now so you won't have the same outcome. You can have a different outcome in this lifetime.
So you're not repeating behaviors from the last.
Yeah, exactly. So instead of repeating the same scene over and over, suddenly you're changing it. It's like writing a play and putting it on stage and just having it changed.
Oh, okay. All right. So that's one of the benefits then to doing the past life for this life, is to look for, say you've got a history or a pattern in your life that you don't like and you don't know where it comes from. Why do I keep doing that? And those questions come up. Is that what you mean, to go back and find out, like maybe it's not just something you're from this lifetime that you can, you're just saying, well, I consciously want to change this, but I'm not changing it. So is that where you feel like that has an influence from a past life?
Well, when you change your past, you can change your present and make your future better. So the idea is you can look at a past life where you keep repeating a pattern of a relationship with a particular person, and it's always negative, and you keep going lifetime after lifetime having bad experiences with that individual, and find this lifetime you've got the same person in your life, and you realize, oh no, I need to break this karmic debt, this bond, and you do, and you suddenly change it, and you no longer have that person in your life, and you've broken that pattern, and you've made it better.
So the person in the past life where you've had the conflict with, will they be in this lifetime too? Like, will it be this, it's technically the same person, but in a different, body?
Oh yeah, sometimes you can have someone of the sisters in the past life, and this lifetime they're mother and daughter, and they're just going through similar situations, and then the person recognizes it and can deal with it in a more effective way.
So do we always reincarnate with the same like family or group of people? Like, I think we talked about this last time, how you choose your family and so forth, but do we always so like a new baby being born in my family, will it always be somebody that was also part of the family in the past, or do we reincarnate into totally different family groups?
Well, we seem to reincarnate in the same family groups, in the same areas, same clans or groups of people, and we do it over and over again in just different roles that we play in each lifetime.
So is it like because we're healing the boo-boos from the first one, so to speak?
Yeah, exactly. And basically, you'll have people in a certain area will reincarnate all those people, and they'll just have different roles, as I said, to play, and there'll be different situations happening.
Okay.
And we always come back for our greatest spiritual growth. What's happening on the planet now is we're here for the greatest spiritual growth we can possibly have, as the changes are going on the planet. The world's getting higher vibrations of energy, and there's more people becoming more enlightened, and we're closer to the heavens, so it's all part of it.
Yeah, the expansion of consciousness. I mean, that's what I understand is we need this many people. Like, a lot of people are worried about population control and stuff, but apparently there's a reason for it.
Oh yeah, they've come back for special reasons. So right now, it's the greatest potential for people for their spiritual growth. With everything that's happening, you've got more potential to wipe the slate clean and move ahead.
So when you, so we have past lives, and then we sometimes we die in those past lives, and you can get to see that. But what about like in this lifetime where is there a difference between astral travel and near-death experience? And if there, what's your understanding of that?
Okay, well, I've got a lot of near-death experience and astral travel stories in my book, Past Lives for Beginners. The near-death experience, usually when you're really sick, something happens, your body will soul will slip out of your body. You'll astral travel. Sometimes you'll go up to heaven. Sometimes you'll meet angels, or you'll meet loved ones that have passed over. And astral travel is the same way, but astral travel, you're not having a near-death experience, nothing serious. You're just, say, falling asleep, and while you sleep, your soul slips out. You float around the room, or you go up and out to visit someone in a different country, or you go up into the heavenly fields, into the universal library, access records, and talk to guides and angels. So it's a similar thing. It's just with the near-death experience, it's because you're in a very dangerous or difficult position. But with astral travel, we just do it. When you fall asleep, you basically astral travel.
So it's similar, but you do consciously, you just or maybe not always consciously, but you can do it consciously. Whereas the near death experience kind of happens to you or for you.
Yeah, it's sort of a near-death experience. It just seems to happen.
Mm-hmm.
Your soul just slips out and something goes on.
Mm-hmm. But so when that happens and you have this, you had a near-death experience, didn't you?
Yeah, I think I talked about it in my an article I wrote. It's in a magazine, and I think pretty sure it's in Past Lives for Beginners. I talked about my near-death experience when I was 19. I had a lot of surgery, and I ended up floating out of my body and floated up above the male nurse, and I floated around to the other side, and I floated over top a fellow that had a heart attack. He opened his eyes and he saw me and he waved at me, and then he actually died the next day. But the male nurse couldn't see me as I floated over top of him while he was reading the sports section of the paper. And I floated down the hall into the morgue, and then I shot through the ceiling, and it's like Star Trek with all these lights shooting by. And I started going towards the light, and I felt peace. And I'm assuming their angels stopped me and said, "No, it's your time. It's not your time yet. You have to go back." And they turned me around, and I ended up coming back down and settling back into my body.
What did that feel like, coming back into your body?
Well, I didn't want to come back in because I was in absolutely no pain at the time. I was floating there, I felt very peaceful, but as soon as I came back in my body, I woke up and I needed something for pain. And the nurse came over and gave me something. But before, or during the time I was doing astral travel, I felt absolutely no pain, no fear, and there wasn't any problems at all.
It's so interesting to me. So when you're doing your like having a near-death experience, does the soul leave the body because it's what the body's going through is too traumatic? Like you just kind of the soul just doesn't want to experience it, or why does it happen? Do you know why?
The soul slips out because the energy changes in such a way that allows the positive energy of the soul to be able to push away from the physical body. And it just pushes out. It's like electricity or magnetism. It just seems to pull out. And sometimes some of the energy that is there to keep the soul within the body dissipates, and it makes it easier for the soul to slip out. That's what's happening when someone's dying and they keep slipping out of their body. And eventually there isn't enough energy to keep the soul in the body, and the soul just slips out and keeps going.
Yeah, when people are doing, they're like in a palliative care type of situation where they're dying, but it's slow. Like they're, maybe it's an illness, or maybe it's just old age kind of thing. Like the body is going, and people know, and people are around, and so forth. And you kind of get the sense that the person is walking between two worlds. They're kind of here, but they're not really here. Do you get are they sort of having like a near-death experience, but not fully, or what's going on there?
Well, when someone's dying, the energy in the body, it's like a magnetism that keeps the soul within. It starts to dissipate. As it dissipates, there's less to be able to keep the soul in. So the soul keeps slipping in and out. And they're in an in-between state. They're sort of here and up in heaven and floating around the room at the same time. And it takes a while, and eventually their soul just comes out of the body, and it can't get back in because there's nothing to pull it back into the physical form.
Okay. So during that process, do we have people like angels, guides, beings of light around to help us go through that, or are we on our own?
Well, usually there's a relative that's passed over will come to help you over before, and sometimes an angel, and I call it an angel of death, will be there with you to help you pass over too. I've seen a room with someone with a big bright light off to the side of an angel as a person's getting ready to pass over. So it's usually relatives come by, and angels are there in the room when you're getting ready to leave.
Wow, that is so cool. Okay, we're going to take a short break, and when we come back, we're going to get into more about Doug's book and all kinds of other things. So stay tuned, stay with us, and we'll be right back with Doug DeLong.
Let's get real. Are you ready? It's time.
You've been listening to Let's Get Real, chatting with Catherine. If you would like to reach a consciously awake and aware audience, this is the place. To sponsor, advertise, get contact information, go to lgrcc.com today. Let's get back to the show. Okay, so we are back with Douglas DeLong of the DeLong Mystery School in Saskatchewan, Saskatoon, Saskatchewan. You can go to Doug's website at www.douglasdelong.com, and his books are available there. But also, we're going to find out more. Doug, do you want to tell people where they can get your books? You have 3 out right now, right?
Yeah, I've got Ancient Teachings for Beginners. It's considered a classic, and the next one is Ancient Healing Techniques, and of course my newest book, which we're talking about, is Past Lives for Beginners, and they're available. You can get them online. 2 of them are available by ebook. You can get them through Amazon, Barnes & Noble, a lot of bookstores, so it's a lot of places, and you can basically anywhere in the world, and they're all out in several languages as well. So basically, if you want to just get an ebook, you can do that too. Just go on the internet, or you can order through, as I said, Barnes and Noble, Amazon, lots of bookstores throughout the world carry them.
And if they want it autographed, probably best to get it direct from your website then?
Oh yeah, they can just contact me and I'll sign it and take payment, whatever, and then I can ship it out to them. I've had people do that from all over.
Okay. So what do you notice, with the work that you've been doing, what's the most, beneficial example? Like, what have you seen where somebody's done a past life regression work and had something really profoundly change in their lives? Do you have any sort of examples for us that somebody that's sort of wondering, well, I'm not that curious, but sort of a more practical example of, somebody did this and they changed their life, or they changed their, say, right now everybody's talking about, well, not everybody, but a lot of people are talking about the law of attraction and abundance and whatever. Could that be from a past life? And is that something that you've ever seen change by going back?
Oh, okay, yeah. Actually, my book, Past Lives for Beginners, has a couple of stories in there. They're very profound. A couple of ladies, they weren't able to have babies, certain problems when they got through the pregnancy.
Right.
So when I regressed them into a previous lifetime, the one lady remembered going back. She was in ancient Rome, or one of the Roman towns, and there was an earthquake. She was pregnant, and she got trapped underneath the wall. Was the stone wall fell onto her, and she remembers that. And she was able to get over that, and then in this lifetime actually go to full term and have a baby. I've had a couple of people do that through the years.
Wow.
So that can happen too. They can actually get rid of a physical problem that's affecting them now and be able to heal from it. I've had people go back to, they've had certain fears or phobias or certain issues, and as they look at it, they're able to release it and let it go and move on. I've had people, like sometimes with money issues, go back and look at a lifetime where they had poverty, and they recognize that they didn't have to be poor in this lifetime, and they could change how they thought, and using the power of their mind to manifest a better life and having more things in it.
So the past where they were in poverty, they brought that forward like as if that's all it can ever be. Would that be about right?
Yeah, they came back in these lifetimes almost like they were living the poverty consciousness.
Yeah.
And instead of having prosperity consciousness, they got this poverty consciousness, and they've been like that for a long, long time. And they just get by, but they're not doing all that well. And as soon as they recognize it, they go, "Oh, I don't have to repeat that anymore." They let that go, and they can move on and have a better life. So I've had people, even for super learning, go back to a past life, and in this lifetime, they're able to learn a language much easier because they spoke that language previously.
Well, that's interesting, to be able to go back to a lifetime where if you want to travel and you want to be able to speak different languages, you can go back to a lifetime where you already had that awareness and probably make it a lot easier on yourself.
Oh yeah, when you look at past lives, you can get so much information and move on and make this lifetime much, much better for yourself. You can just understand who you are. You have to remember that you are a culmination of all souls, all the people you've been in past lives. You bring all that stuff through lifetime after lifetime, and you have that incorporated within you, and you become the person that you are now with all this knowledge and wisdom and experience from previous lifetimes.
So when you're doing regression work, does a person, like, if I don't have an awareness of that I've had a past life and you're doing the regression work, do you, like, you could have had hundreds of lifetimes. How do you know which one to go to, or do you go to more than one, or does your soul take you to where you need to go? How do you know where to go?
Well, your higher self or your soul seems to take you where you need to go. A lot of times a person will have just one particular lifetime that they go to, and they go through the experiences because they need to get information out of it, something that's relevant now. Or sometimes they'll have 2 or 3 different lifetimes show up. They'll go through one, slip into the next lifetime, and into a 3rd or 4th lifetime getting information. So everything's different. And the person, they never know where they're going to go to. They'll just get the information that's necessary for them. That seems to help them the best.
So if if your issue was a health issue, would the person like come to you and say, okay, I've got a issue like this, so, and then do you kind of direct the session to, let's go back and find the lifetime where this is the issue? Is it, or is it just going to take you, period?
Normally it's just going to take you, but once in a while I will try to guide someone back to a lifetime that they need to experience to let the pain go or whatever.
Okay. So it sort of can be either or. But you would need, this what I'm wondering is, the book is a tool that a person can, one, learn about what past lives are, and then you give lots of examples, but you also have tools within the book. Is that correct?
Oh yeah, there's tools to help you understand the past lives, how to get there, how to do certain types of meditation, how to open up your psychic and spiritual gifts more, how to work with angels and guides, and how to work with chakra flow, and doing energy work too. So there's a lot of information in the books that help you greatly. And then again, I have all the stories in there. Sometimes how angels will come, intervene, come to visit, or see someone like Mother Mary or a spirit guide, a high spirit guide will come and talk to that individual. I've had someone that had, I think it was Mary Magdalene, come to her, and she had a profound experience meeting this special spirit guide and guiding her and helping her. And so it's quite interesting to have people go back to past lives where they're in ancient Egypt, seeing all sorts of neat information. Or I've had a lot of people that were sick, dying from cancer, and they had some amazing experiences when they went up to heaven, talked to angels and spirit guides, loved ones that passed over, got all sorts of information, and they were at peace. And then when they were able to pass over, it was a different experience for them.
Ah, so that's another reason to do it, so that when they transition in this lifetime, it makes it a lot easier for them.
Oh yeah, I've had a couple of people that have done that. They literally go up into heaven and actually explore and talk to angels and guides and get all sorts of incredible information, see amazing things while they're up there. It's astral travel or soul traveling, and then they come back to Earth, and so they've already been up there before they die. So it's quite fascinating to see that happen.
And do you think it's easier to do this now because, as they say, some people say there is no more veil, and other people say it's very, very thin. Do you think that's why this is more accessible to more people?
Well, what happens is when you're born, you normally have a veil that shuts down, keeps you from remembering your past lives, but there are techniques. And I've got a lot of them in my book that teach you how to lift that veil up to start accessing past life information, knowledge, and experiences, feelings, and emotions, and bring them up to the surface and let them go. And so that's the idea. And there are some people that are born that the veil isn't that heavy. It's light, and they can lift it easily and get all sorts of information.
And well, how Doug, how did you come to know all this? Is it trial and error, or from your own the near death experience you had? Like, is that what opened up your psychic gifts and so forth?
Well, as a kid, I could see colors around people. I used to have guides and angels come to visit me, and I lost it. And then when I had the near death experience, it helped to reawaken a lot. And I was always interested in UFOs and parapsychology and ghosts and everything. And I studied whatever I could. And then I had studies through the Rosicrucians, the mystical organization, and I had lots of studies for many, many, many years through them. And I did a lot of my own reading. And when I'd astral travel, I go up there and I get all sorts of information and to be taught when I'm up there in the heavenly fields in these teaching temples. So I got all sorts of information.
So you're one of those. Sorry, so you're one of those people who kind of came in with it already a little bit thinner to start with, would you say?
Yeah, I had a lot of it in me, and I did a lot of studies, parapsychology and everything, just to kind of put it all together.
Yeah, make sense in this lifetime. So do you still, when you're looking for a deeper understanding of what's going on in the world, is that where you go for your information? You go astral travel and go up to the Akashic records and talk to guides and stuff, or is that a part of your practice? Is it a daily thing or weekly or
monthly?
Well,
it's not a daily thing, but about once a week. But I will get some information up there, and I'll feel more comfortable. And a lot of times when I'm teaching courses, they give me information and knowledge when I'm up there, and then I can take it down here on the earth, and I'll teach healing courses to people. And just get the information that I need. Sometimes I get some answers about what's going to happen in the near future, what's going on, and sometimes what I'm supposed to be doing to just keep things flowing.
Right. So aside from the books which you have, do you have CDs or other things that you're offering, or courses that you're offering right now, or?
Oh yeah, my wife and I teach courses. She does Reiki and other courses. And I do a healing course. It's a 2-day course. I charge $725 for it. And it's based, I use my books as reference tools. And I teach people to see auras, how to work with energy, how to work with angels and spirit guides, headache removal techniques, sending energy through the body, and working with chakras. And
so where is that something that you have certain dates already set, or do people, is it like privately, or it's a 2-day thing, but is it in groups? Or
sometimes I'll set a date for teach a class here, and in some cases I'll go to some other places. When I get invited to teach a course, say in Hawaii or someplace, we'll just go there and teach the classes in Calgary or wherever, and I just go with that. So we've got the Ancient Healing course, Healing from the Masters course, which I use my books as reference tools, as I said, and it's a 2-day class. Usually I'm teaching on a weekend.
And so, but you don't have any booked right now for anybody to, or it's by invitation kind of thing? How would people?
No, people can contact me and I can set something up with them for classes if they want to teach a course or take a course from me. And I also have a hypnotherapy class I teach, showing people how to do hypnotherapy and past life regression work. I'll teach that on occasion. And I normally do that on one-on-one with a person that'll come to me and use my books, read them, and follow through the techniques I give them, show them how to get energy flowing up and down through another person's body.
And so, and is that in person, or can you do that distantly as well?
Well, I can do it both ways. Someone can phone me. I'll do, like, I can even teach classes by Skype if someone wants to set up something through that way too.
And they would connect.
Ways.
Sorry?
No, go ahead, sorry.
And they would connect with you by going to your website then, www.douglasdelong.com.
Yeah, just go to douglasdelong.com and it has the email address and the phone number and all the information. They can contact me. And I can do a phone session or a session by Skype with someone. And as I said, even teach classes by phone or by Skype, or having a person or persons come here. Or we can go someplace. If someone wants to invite us there, set something up with us, we can go to certain places and teach classes.
Right, right. Another thing I wanted to ask you about, Douglas, is the children. You mentioned children quite a few times in some of the stories that you have in your book, Past Lives for Beginners. But when would it be, what would be a signal to a parent, if somebody was listening, that their child would benefit from, a past life regression, or how old is the youngest you worked with, and what would be the circumstances that would make a person say, hey, you know what, I think we need to do this?
Well, probably about 10 years of age, 9 or 10 years of age. That's at the point where they start to change, the brain has a shift or change, and that's a good time to work with the child then and get them to keep their gifts open up. Sometimes when you're around 10, you start to shut down your gifts or abilities, and I can do techniques with the child to help that kid keep the abilities open up, being able to see guides or angels, and just having all these gifts staying there.
What if a parent is seeing something like in a 5-year-old or younger, or that is so what I want to call it, like adult-like, in sometimes we see this today, anger issues and stuff for a very young children, that it doesn't seem very natural for a young child. What could they do, or do what, like ride it out until they're a little older, or what? How could you deal with that?
Well, sometimes just doing a little meditation work with the child, deep breathing, and maybe doing a couple of chants, like one called May, M-A-Y, and you just chant at the child, and they can feel the vibration that helps ease them off. And that might be a good idea. And some teaching them how to do deep breathing and relaxing, little things like that.
Right.
As they get a little bit older, then they can consider like getting a past life recall.
So the book is for people of all ages and all situations to sort of open to the awareness of what's going on, but also to use it as a tool for themselves, and if necessary, probably access like your services or somebody that can help.
Yeah, they can just get a hold of my book, Past Lives for Beginners, and there's all sorts of exercises in there that will help them greatly. And it will give them an explanation of a lot of things, and it's great when you do that. And I suggest that if someone's coming for a session with me, or having them by phone or Skype, is to just get a hold of the book first and start going through it. And even my first book, Ancient Teachings for Beginners, has all sorts of cool exercises that can help you open up your gifts too.
Yeah, I was wondering about that. The other two books are also available on the website and all over as well, right?
Oh yeah, they're everywhere. If you just type in, say, Ancient Teachings for Beginners, it'll come up in about 50 different spots where the books are available, and information on them. And Past Lives for Beginners is the same way too.
And a couple of the first two books have been translated into other languages as well.
Oh yeah, I forgot many. They're in Portuguese, Czech, Bulgarian, Russian, Estonian, Portuguese. I guess I said that. I can't remember the other ones. And they're also in traditional Chinese characters and simplified Chinese. So they're available in China and in Hong Kong and Taiwan.
That's fantastic. That's really great. Well, it does feel like more and more people are starting to figure out we're a lot more than our bodies, and that these other lifetimes maybe are influencing us. So I'm really appreciate you sharing this with us and bringing your gifts to the world. So it's been great to have you on the show, Douglas. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you for having me on the show. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, it's been wonderful, and for those of you listening, once again, go to the website www.douglas, like DOUGLASDELONG.com, to get the books, to get access to Doug, to set up private sessions or whatever you might want. Go back to lgrcc.com for the full listing of shows and amazing guests covering all kinds of different topics. It's been such a treat. Until next time, take care. Thank you for watching. Feel free to share the link. You can join us for live shows by going to letsgetrealchattingwithcatherine.com and listen to the replays from the show page, preview guests, and explore links to our Facebook fan page, WordPress blog, and more. We are creating an exquisite world. Until next time, take care.